It's your boy back with an official content today. So the weather's been freezing here in New York City, New Jersey, ice cold right now in New Jersey. Wow. It's the first time since the pandemic that I've seen the streets that cold where people aren't even coming out, except the tourists that just for some reason, they don't stop. They come. They come. New York and New Jersey, they come. And Connecticut as well. So, I was going to touch on two things. Glad to be back. Got an official episode for you today. I got a big sit-down coming up. Interview, whatever you want to call it. I'll announce it on my next video. It's being recorded, and then it's going to be dropped on this person's network and then my network. They're huge for the genre. I think they're the biggest. I think the genre needs this person. Not how people say more people like that. I think people need this person regardless. If we don't fall on the same side of the tracks on issues or whatever the future may be, I'll always stand by how much I respect this person and what they've done and how much they belong in this genre more than most. Not more people like him. Him himself could be the king of this genre, and it's a great sit down. I'm sure a lot of people don't think it was going to happen, but it will. So, two things. Somebody asked me about the Godfather of Harlem, right? Bumpy Johnson. You've all seen the movies. You've all seen, Hoodlum and, the madame who ran the numbers, had that beef with Judge Schultz, got to live through it. Because he put her in jail, supposedly. They did a lot of that back then, which we'll touch on. No, none of it is real. Characters are true, 100%. The Chin, of course, we all know. But he was from the West Village. He stood on Greenwich. Harlem was Tony Salerno. As we all know, Tony Salerno was the boss, not the Chin. When the Chin became boss, it was 1981. To 2004, 2005, however, yeah. Just that's off the top of my head. So you got to remember, the Chin shoots Frank Costello in 1957, right? The Genovese family was called the Luciano crime family, right? It all got restructured a few times, the commission. When Vito Genovese got put away for 15 years for drugs, and then eventually he found out that it was Lucky, when Lucky got deported, and he found out that it was Lucky Luciano that put him away. Don't use the excuse that you didn't want to kill him. You didn't want to kill him because he was that powerful. He was that powerful in Sicily, and he was that powerful in New York. When Vito Genovese finally got out and lived, put everything, he put it all together while he was in jail. He, first of all, with Carlo Gambino's blessing and a lot of the other people, which a lot of people don't know, the Chin got the go-ahead to shoot Frank Costello, who was the capo to tutti capo. He was supposed to be the boss of all bosses, but he wasn't. He was the boss, and a lot of people call him the diplomat. No, he was the boss of the Luciano crime family, which is now the Genovese crime family, named after Vito Genovese. So Vito was doing 15 years for Babagna. And the Chin shot Frank Costello, botched the job. Frank wound up living. We all know he didn't tell. Chin goes away in 1959 on drug trafficking, right? All of this deal or die since 1957, 1963, however they want to say it. When Carlo Gambino became the boss of all bosses, they pushed on it. But as you all know, the Pizza Connection, which was all the Sicilians, with the help of Carmine Galante, that was all Babagna dealers. And these were all bosses. All the major bosses, if you look at, and I will talk about them throughout these upcoming episodes, guys that are in control now. Everybody has I met a guy coming home who's a boss now. He came home on a drug trafficking charge, 17 years, So the Chin went away in 1959 for 8 years. I think, 1968 when Bumpy had his heart attack? None of it, the time frame is very not close. I know Bumpy Johnson's older, Then the Chin, you got to remember Escape from Alcatraz, the African American actor who played, he was portraying Bumpy Johnson. Let's not forget that Bumpy Johnson was in and out of jail most of his life. Most of his adult life and as a juvenile. But he did, the Godfather Harlem. Harlem is part of Manhattan. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't realize that neighborhood like Murray Hill, they neighborhood Manhattan. It's very small. But then they call after 110th Street Harlem until it hits the Bronx. But Harlem is New York, New York. You don't write Harlem, New York. A lot of people get mad that they're from Harlem. But when you're figuring out your PO, where you live, you got to write New York, New York. You don't write, Harlem, New York. Some people might do it. But Harlem, New York is not a zip code. Zip code is 212. That's Manhattan. So, the Bronx uses a Queens and Brooklyn zip code, 718. So, but Harlem is what Manhattan's known for. A lot of people don't know that. Everybody thinks Harlem is separate. It's not. Manhattan's very small, and Harlem's even smaller. But for the people that ran through Harlem and grew up in Harlem and, the west side of Harlem, of course, Tony Salerno and the Genovese families from the east side of Harlem, you got to remember. And then the Chins from the west side of Manhattan, but on the lower side, the West Village, Greenwich Street, right? Did he frequent Harlem? Yes, he was a Harlem guy. I'm not saying he's not. But let's get the time frames right. Chin shot Frank Costello 57. Then he wasn't even a captain yet. You got to remember, he goes away in 1959. He winds up bunking with Vito Genovese. And Vito Genovese gives him the capo regime position. That means he's a captain with a crew. Because it makes him a boss of his own crew. That's a capo regime, all right? And most captains are capo regimes. The regime part is the crew. That's the regime, right? Like the military. You've all heard it in the Godfather. I don't got to explain it. But I will, because today we're going to be doing the 10 Commandments of the Mafia. That was written in Sicily, and some used at ceremonies here in America. So it is the true 10 Commandments of La Cosa Nostra, which is another Sicilian word, like Mafia, like Omerta. And we're going to talk about that. And I'm going to educate the people that think they're educated already, okay? And this is just me, how I grew up, how it was explained to me, and I've known it to be true, to be factual. So, the Chin and Bumpy never bumped heads. The Genovese family and Bumpy, I'm not sure. Bumpy was in federal prison with a lot of Italians. He structured his way like the Italians, not because of the Italians. He was in war with them because he was a soldier. In the Madam's crew, he was a soldier for the numbers game, and then eventually, he had heroin in Harlem, right? Was Frank, I'm not going to get into that whole thing with the American Gangster. No, he wasn't his official driver. I'm sure he was part of Bumpy's crew for a while, but that was it. Everybody knew Bumpy. Nicky Barnes, Frank, I don't want to say his name, whatever, from American Gangster, Frank Lucas, right? But Bumpy Johnson always stood on his, on 2 feet. Maybe he got heroin through Cosa Nostra? Probably, Crazy Joe Gallo was making friends with a lot of people in Harlem, but nothing to do with the Chin. Adam Clayton Powell, yes, big name, was a preacher, then into politics. There's streets and avenues up in Harlem named after this guy. They loved him. You had the one half, was Malcolm X and all his Muslims, and then you had the other half was Adam Clayton Powell, who was a big preacher for the Christian Brotherhood, right? So, and then a huge politician, right? One of the first African Americans to go to Congress. Yes, that was Adam Clayton Powell. So they put it all, fictional to watch. I didn't like it. I thought it went too far with the Joe Bonanno and being buried in the base, that whole thing. It's just, the opening song is great by Rick Ross, by the way. Great song. But nothing is even close. So again, the Chin goes away at 59, 8 years on trafficking charge. Bunks with Vito Genovese. Vito Genovese makes him a capo regime he was already a May guy. Makes him a capo regime. In prison, comes home to his own crew, and takes the west side over, right? Nothing to do with Bumpy Johnson. So that's people that are reaching out to me, asking me about the Godfather Harlem. All fictional. The characters aren't. Chaz Palminteri did a great job, playing Joe Bonanno. Joe Bonanno was a short Sicilian man. Not too many. I've met a few tall Sicilians. I have red-headed Sicilians. I've met a lot, but Chaz Palminteri is a very tall guy. You could tell he's probably maybe does he. I know when he plays the role in the Bronx Tale, Calogero is actually means Charlie because that was my grandfather, my mother's side's name, Calogero. They call it an ugly name, but Chaz Palminteri might be a tall Sicilian. I'm not sure. I thought it was Nabili Don. The guy with him, he's very good friends with him. But great actor, Chaz, above and beyond than anything he's ever in. I never put him in the B class. He's always in the A class with the actors. 100% he's an A class actor. Did a great job, but that's not how Bonanno was. Bonanno moved in silence and violence and like I said, silence. And, didn't move large the way he did in that with crews behind him. And he had large crews behind him. They met, which we all know, in Arizona, and it was being recorded. And then he wrote the book, and that's how Giuliani helped, use Rico. It was Joe Bonanno's book in 1980, if I'm not mistaken, that came out. And the 60 Minutes interview, Joe Bonanno everybody heard Cosa Nostra in a way. Joe Bonanno was one of them. And he was the old school. That's why a lot of these guys, like Anthony Spiro, Carmine Galante, Baldo Ahmad, right? Baldo from Middle Village, Ridgewood, another Sicilian Ridgewood. Those guys all came up under Joe Bonanno. That whole Sicilian fraction. Rustel, that the boss never wanted to let go. They all came up. So, okay. Now, another thing, and I did my homework on this, having a lot of friends, old friends, now acquaintances and associates, bookmaking in New York City now. Oof. Something I never thought I'd see in my day. I go far back with bookmaking as a kid, getting pinched where you got a ticket. It's not even on my record. Didn't even go on your record. It was a fine, community service. Bookmaking wasn't. That's how far back. We never thought in that, when we were in that business, that it would ever be legalized in New York City. Now, 9 out of half to 10 bookmakers disagree with it. Said it hurt. It hurt. I had an old timer when they legalized it in Jersey, and I came home and I found out about it. I ran into an old time bookmaker on purpose, and I wanted to get his reaction. And he's from the old school, and he said it being legal in Jersey hurt the bookmakers in New York. He said he stopped working with guys that bet with him in Staten Island and Jersey once it was legalized. And he put it to me very simple then, and now the 9.5 bookmakers out of the 10 that I spoke with, it was 10 out of 10 until just one came along and said it was great for them. I had to go back and speak to two more, and absolutely not. Worst thing it can do for bookmakers is them legalizing gambling in New York City. And these new guys, was a younger guy, says it's great for them because, we give out credit. It's the same line that a lot of people are spewing. We give credit. You got to go online now with the $600 bill, on the floor in Congress because it already got passed, but didn't get passed on the floor. Then it used to be up to $9,900. It's going to be everything reported after $600 now. So he threw that point in. He goes, why would you want that? You got to fill out a separate form for gambling now. You hit for $35,000. There's a record of it. You got to give them your credit card information. Nobody wants to do that. No, they do want to do that. What you don't get is they're running to the store to get credit cards with places like CVS. They got those Visa cards with $500 on them where you can eventually order your own debit card with that and then put as much as you want on it. What happens is a guy loses $5,000, right? And not everybody's a perfect payer that gambles. I got great guys. A great guy is a guy that pays 6 out of 10 times. That's a great guy. Like on time, all the money at once. 6 out of 10 times that happens, right? 10 out of 10 were guys with $500,000 limits, right? So say a guy's got a $5,000 limit, right? That's a pretty hefty limit, These days it's big. Back in the day, some guys thought they were American Express. They had no limit, right? So that guy gets up $3,500, right? And say his payday's Saturday, right? When my friend certain friends were, when they were friends, no longer friends, were bookmakers, they made it Monday, right? Because everybody on Saturday would say, yeah, wait, I don't see my guy till Sunday. And then you get the guys, yeah, I see him Sunday after the 8:05 game or whatever. It's like, so he would make it when he went right into the business. Monday's our meetup date. You can't say Tuesday. You can't say, I see everybody. So he used to collect everything on Monday. His bookmaking, then eventually he became a Shylock, and his Shylock was collected on Monday. And it gave nobody an excuse, and you had to go out and crack a head after that. There was no more, I hope by Sunday. Got busy Sunday night, I'll catch up with you Monday. Mondays, he made it Mondays, and guys couldn't get over. You knew they were trying to beat you, or they weren't. Made it Mondays, bottom line. You didn't have to hear excuses. I got a party. He's religious. He takes his family to church on Sundays, or he don't come out on Saturdays. It closes that all down, and used to make his collecting, and then his card games was on Mondays. It was the same. Everything he did, he made it on Monday, so guys didn't have excuses the whole weekend. It was a great system, and it weeded out the bad guys. So a guy comes up with $5,000, right? Loses $5,000. He's got $3,500, right? What is that guy going to do? He's going to look for the first place, just like everybody has another vice. It's just not sports, right? When Texas Hold'em was at its biggest, right? Guys were like, I'm a professional dart player, I'm a professional, pool guy, I'm a professional backgammon player. They were all something else besides Texas Hold'em, right? So with that, they're going to take that money if they're dice guys and try to win the $5,000 because they only got $3,500 for the bookmaking. So legalizing sports gambling in New York City isn't good. No. 9.5 out of 10 bookmakers will tell you no. Because as soon as they get cash, they're going to run right to FanDuel, right where whoever it is taking this action, and try to gamble. Live. It was bad. We used to have to shut down cash bet places because what happened was guys would get money and not have all the money for the bookmaker and run to the cash bet guy. Because it was live, it was cash. You knew if you bet 500, you were getting 500 back in cash. So 9.5 out of 10 bookmakers do not like it that sports is legal in New York City. Because when guys don't have a balance, they're going to take what they have and they're going to turn around and go bet it with FanDuel. If guys will elect next to Atlantic City, they'll roll dice. They'll play blackjack. Slots and the Joker pokers, they're really not that big. People like to touch the cards. People like to see the cards. People like to play with chips. So when they put the slot machines here, a lot of guys, got addicted to it. Because gamblers are gamblers. The racetrack hurt because it was a cash place, right? So again, guy loses almost $2,500, only got $1,500. He would go to OTB. He would go to the racetrack, try to bet horses, try to bet long shots, try to bet an exacta box, try to bet the trifecta. It was always something with cash. And that's why cash betting places, if they weren't around, if they weren't kicking up, got shut down. Because we knew where the guys that owed money at the end of the week were going to go with their cash. They wouldn't turn it into the bookmaker if they didn't have the whole thing. All right? So with that, 9 out of half to 10 bookmakers disagree with gambling in New York City. And that's the reason. Just like anything else. Once them table games come, bookmakers will be dinosaurs. Obsolete. All right? Check back in for the video. Coming up next.